I'm more nervous talking to people than like being naked in front of them, if that makes sense. Like an early morning nude is like with the sun. I don't know. I love it. I think it's nice. I feel like I have more control over my butt than a lot of people. I don't know how to explain that.
Hey, I'm Casey Calvert.
I'm Leanna Lovings.
I'm Corey Chase.
I'm Bree Mills, and you're listening to the Adult Time Podcast.
Welcome to the Adult Time Podcast, Hazel Moore.
Thank you.
We were just joking about, how we both get nervous every time the clapper comes, and we just both got, I don't want to say we both just got the clap. That doesn't sound right.
No.
But here we are.
Yeah.
We're clutching our Timmies.
Yeah.
And we have done some pretty cool work together that I want to talk about today. This pod is dropping right around the same time as the first Pure Taboo feature film of 2025, The Party's Over. And I was super blessed to get to work with you. You were our lead character in that project. So we're definitely going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But we're going to first just settle in.
Loosen up
with what we like to call an icebreaker game.
Okay.
And these are the one set of questions that I have not shown you. And even myself, I'm going into this blind. So are you ready?
I guess.
Okay. All right. So we're going to play a game called Would You Rather? Okay. It's meant to bring about some existential reflection.
Oh,
no, I'm
nice.
just kidding. Maybe. No, but let's start with quite a serious one. If you were given the choice, Hazel, would you rather have anal sex every day or a threesome every time you have sex?
Definitely threesome.
Okay.
I just don't want to deal with all the prep,
That's true.
Every day,
you're kind of doing nothing but
Yeah.
you're living for anal.
I wouldn't be able to eat.
No, that's true. What's your, if you don't mind sharing, what's your in your anal prep kit? What's your go-to prep plan?
I feel like I prep more than other girls.
Okay.
I've kind of come to that consensus. Like it takes me a little bit longer. If I know it's gonna be a larger person, it's like a 3-day thing.
Wow.
So I'll do the full prep that I would do the day of, 3 days before. So that way it's kind of looser, relaxed. And if I hurt myself, I have time to heal.
Yes.
And then I do that the day of. And I do eat. I'll not eat dinner, if that makes sense. But
so
I'll eat
the night before you wouldn't
Yeah.
eat dinner. Yeah. Okay. And day of you'll have certain kinds of foods.
Nah, just whatever.
Oh no, just whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
I drink caffeine, coffee.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem with it, which I feel like it's different than a lot of people.
Well, from what I understand about anal prep, and there's probably a lot of people listening right now that are like, what is anal prep? So when you're saying prep, for you, it's like a stretching, right? Kind of practicing plus the kind of clean out process, and then just making sure that you're not full of food necessarily.
Yeah.
Did you before you got into the industry, were you how did you learn what it took for you and your body to do anal scenes? Was that something coming into the industry you had to discover by experience, or you had some knowledge beforehand?
Yeah. So I had done anal before I went in the industry, but I just kind of did it. Never had any problems, thankfully, but I definitely had to learn on set, what to do and how to prep other people. And I didn't exactly have someone holding my hand through it. It was just kind of here's this. You have an hour, get ready. And I'm like, okay, well, the instructions say this, you have to learn certain things, rinse out the solution in the enema or whatever, which I never had a problem with, thankfully. But little things like that I had to learn as I go.
It's funny, right? Because that seems to be for both enemas and douches that the first thing that you learn is to dump the fluid provided in those solutions and replace it with something else. Which leads you to question why does it have that fluid in the first place? That's always been one of those questions that I've had, just knowing that everybody dumps it. Yeah.
For enemas, it's because you take Imodium after.
There you go.
Kind of would like.
It would counteract.
Yeah.
Look, see, I mean, I'm, I doesn't matter how many years I've been in this business. It's an area that is sort of like a magical area. I don't fully understand, but I respect when everything works out great.
Yeah.
But okay, so we've talked this. We completely already sidelined into just like anal sex prep. But okay, so the threesome is much more because it's more common sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you like having threesomes? Like, is that something you enjoy?
I don't do a lot of them in like my personal life, but I do like it. Whether girls, guys, whoever, whatever mixture. I think it's nice.
Yeah. I like that. All right. So next, would you rather question? This is a weird one. Would you rather cry every time you have sex, or emit a blood curdling scream at the time of climax? So it's basically like cry post cum.
Definitely cry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no problem with crying.
Yeah. Do you cry when you orgasm ever? Does that ever happen to you?
Rarely, but it does happen.
Yeah. It's kind of a neat thing, right?
Yeah. Like, why do I feel like this?
Well, this is an aspect of like, I think specifically female sexuality that doesn't get talked about a lot, that sometimes you can literally just be brought to crying, and it's weird because you're happy and you're laughing, but you're also profusely crying.
I feel like it's even weirder when you're by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like that's happened a couple times. I'm like, what is happening? You know, it's different when you're with someone, but like when you're alone with your hands are a vibrator and you're like, why am I
just sobbing?
Yeah. I don't know what's happening.
To me, like anytime that it's happened in my life, it's a reminder that like that amount of release, like the effect that it can have on you, right? Where you think crying is something that is, not that you can always control, but you have a sense of when it's coming on, right? So when it happens outside of like the normal, I'm sad, I'm upset context, and the fact that you kind of can't stop.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like makes you realize your body has like that power over your brain. All right. So no blood curdling screams. We're going to talk about blood curdling screams later.
Yeah.
I should have known that would have been a no for you. But I digress. Would you rather receive a golden shower every day for a year, or drink 2 gallons of cum for a month? What kind of options are these? What do you think, Hazel?
Definitely, probably, oh man, I don't know. Say it one more time. It's shower for a year or
golden shower for a year. Or you got to drink 2 gallons of cum. Now it says 2 gallons of cum for a month. So I'm going to assume it's like every day for a month. So it's like a golden shower a day or 2 gallons of cum.
I don't even drink that much water. So I think I'm going to go with the shower. At least it's warm,
True. I guess by the time you're like on day 15, you kind of just, blank out the fact that it's urine. And
we could do it in the shower and then I shower right then. And,
okay, so you're getting a whole game plan around this. I like it. You could have the shower running at the same time, so you just don't even know that it's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, I will buy that. I think that is that would be my choice as well. I'm glad we aligned on that. Okay, so my last would you rather question. Would you rather have sex in an extremely haunted place? Or have sex in an extremely dirty place?
Ooh. Don't they usually coincide?
I would say often, but not always.
I feel like haunted would work better.
Okay, now let's deep dive into this. Because I think I would take the dirty. So why would you take the haunted?
Gets blood going,
Okay, right. So you're
the
like
dirty
the
would
adrenaline.
take me out of it.
Yeah, and I guess it depends what kind of dirty too, right? Like if it's like dirt and grime.
Like if we're in the woods, that's different,
right?
Yeah. But if it's like, I don't know, like a really dirty house, I'd rather be in like a clean haunted one. Though it's like, are we gonna get caught? You know?
Okay, so then it just becomes an almost caught scenario, basically, in a haunted house. Yeah. your decision change if in the extremely haunted house you actually had encountered the hauntings? Like not the thrill that it might happen, but like there's the chandelier is swaying and doors are slamming and a ghoul is popping up from behind the couch.
It really depends.
Yeah.
It really would. Sometimes they're chill.
Yeah,
And they
that's
just
true.
want attention.
That's true.
So, I don't know. If it's like a zombie-esque looking thing, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just like hanging out, it's not terrible.
Yeah, okay, so I get it. You're
Yeah.
going to take the risk that the ghost is nice
Yeah.
versus that the house is going to give you like all manners of
Yeah.
disease and infection. All right, folks, would you rather? We have broken the ice. Now we got to go back to the blood-curdling scream.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the segue into talking about The Party's Over, which is your first major feature role with Adult Time.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you think your stepdad would let us invite some boys over?
This isn't about my virginity, is it?
This is about something that couples do that would make us really close.
Lana?
No. I know it's your birthday, sweetie. I'm so sorry about this.
It's okay, Mom.
No, but turning 19 is supposed to be very special.
Christy and Chloe are supposed to be coming over, so.
Come on, don't worry about it, honey. Teenagers don't like hanging with their mom on their birthday anyway. Besides, I'll look after them, keep them out of trouble. Son, we need to talk. Look, I know your father's not around, but I know your stepdad can give you some advice. I mean, if it's anything I know about, it's definitely women. Does she know you're into her?
I think so. Maybe?
Chloe's waiting for you to make the first move. You just gotta do it. You gotta be strategic. All right, ladies. I've got some special birthday surprises for you tonight.
Chloe, could I talk to you for a second?
Ethan.
Go see what Ethan wants.
What if there was a way for us to show each other affection without going against our beliefs?
What do you mean?
Not acting very father-like.
Father-like?
Yeah.
I never said I wanted to be your dad.
I just don't like when you flirt with my friends, okay? It's disrespectful to me and to my mom.
I'm curious. Aren't you curious?
What happened? What's wrong?
We're just celebrating. It's your big day.
Now, you've been quite a feature on the platform over the last couple of years. I know that you're a fan favorite, definitely with Pure Taboo fans, but with Girls Way fans and really across the board. We love working with you. I want to ask you, before we delve into like just the experience of making The Party's Over, what was your first time like working for Adult Time? What's your memory of that, if you have, if you have one?
Oh, God. I don't remember what my very first one was. If you could cue me in, maybe I
Yeah.
can.
Oh, man. I mean, like,
You
we'll have to
don't know-
fact check. You know what?
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure they're going to
Someone
throw
fact
it up in post-production and they're gonna flash it
appear,
here.
like, right
it's gonna
here? And I'm
appear
like,
right
oh,
in the
wow.
middle.
Yeah.
That wasn't what it looks like.
She wasn't cheating.
Oh, really?
She was picking up my pencil. I dropped it.
Is that true?
Yeah. I was just getting her pencil for her.
Hazel, wait. I haven't thanked you properly yet.
How are you gonna do that?
Like this?
But okay, so let's do this. What is, like, when you think of Adult Time, like, what is your kind of impression working with us as a company, especially compared to like a whole bunch of other companies that you get to work with in adult?
I think you guys are very detail-oriented. And as a detail-oriented person, I really appreciate that. Because sometimes it's very much, do things, just do it. And I'm like, give me something, you know? And you guys are very like, this is the, the stuff that we're playing on, and this is the themes, and you know what I mean? So it's like, it gives me a little wiggle room to bring myself into it.
Yeah, well, that's I appreciate that. I think that's a good, definitely something that we care a lot about, right? Like for us, doing Porn Differently starts with just approaching the subject matter seriously, just as a production. So it's coming to set as the director and working with your actors and trying to give them, to the best of your ability, context into who they're playing. And I know that for The Party's Over, that was like a big thing that we did, where we all got together And we kicked off the shoot by having just a discussion about who each of you were as your characters. So how did you find with the character of and I'm already going to screw it up because as like the only Canadian on set, I kept calling your character Lena when the character's name, as you all agreed, was Lana. So can you tell us like a little bit about how hearing about Lana from like my introduction, but also from reading the script, like how you connected to that character and how you ultimately brought that character to life?
I mean, we talked about this a little bit when you were kind of reading through all of the characters, just like she's kind of in the middle between her friends. So the very conservative, shy friend who's, you know, religious, and then the other friend who's like more loud and, you know, boisterous or whatever verbs you want to use. She's kind of in the middle where she's not like a prude or anything, right? But she's also not very loud about her sexuality or, you know, getting attention or any of these things, right? I think that's pretty reflective of me because I grew up a little, you know, like shy and like quiet. I was like low-key the weird kid. I feel like that's a common story in the industry, but
we're the island of misfit toys, right?
Yeah. So it was that, and then I kind of grew into just myself, which is still not a very loud person, I guess. So it just felt very natural. Like I brought more of myself into it than anything else.
Did you find that like, oh my gosh, I can really bring myself into this? Or did you kind of get that sense from the first time you read the script?
I tend to, as a performer, bring myself into most of the roles I do. It's very rare where I'm like not being me. But I think I was able to kind of pull from things that I normally don't for a scene, and that's kind of what made it a little bit different for me. Just like the first scene we did, it was very much, you know, I was pulling from, you know, how would I act, you know?
In that moment.
But yeah, I don't get to pull from that kind of thing a lot, you know? So it fleshed out the character in a different way.
It ended up being, it was one of those things. So like, obviously it was our first time working together in person. I obviously had seen your work. You were in another big Pure Taboo episode that I had written, Soaking, which we'll touch on as well. But it was our first time meeting. And, you know, it occurred to me when I had made the production schedule, the first scene that we shot for your character is a very intense scene towards the end of the film where essentially you are crying alone in the bathroom while washing out your vagina. Which, you know, as a single line, probably is the best way to describe just working with me. Like, okay, that's going to be your first scene. But I feel like it was such a great way to start off that relationship together as like actor and director, because it was, you know, it was intense.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of people would look at and be like, oh man, I don't want that to be like the first thing that we do. But like, it also, because it was just you, it was like the last scene of the day. It was pretty much just you, myself, the crew working through it. I think it also kind of, it was like doing a warm-up stretch, right? For the rest of the shoot. Yeah. And as soon as I saw the way you did that, because, you know, we had talked a lot about like your character and we'd had all, you know, these discussions on set beforehand, but it was kind of like, it was a way I was like kind of putting you in the deep end, like, okay, now you're going to go and have this freak out in this bathroom.
See what you do,
Let's see what you do.
Yeah.
And the way that you did that scene, as I was watching it, for me, that was when I saw, okay, this is who Lana is. Because you could have taken that material and gone in many different ways. And the fact that it was a quiet but really powerful freak out. I looked at that and I was just like grinning from ear to ear behind the monitors, because to me, I was like, okay, this is believable. And, you know, you mentioned like putting yourself just naturally as an actress, you like put yourself into your characters. That is the secret sauce of Pure Taboo, especially. Like what makes it so effective is the fact that if we can get the actors to not be acting, but be being themselves essentially within the context of the situation. And you nailed that. And so I watched that and I'm like, okay, so this is who Lana is. And it was such a cool, like, we'll never forget that that's how, like,
I was a
we
little
worked together.
nervous because, like, I get nervous before, like, the first shot every time, every day, like, you know, even if it's a multiple day thing. But, like, because I didn't know what you envisioned. And I was like, oh, man, you know, so I was just like, I'm going to pull from, like, how I would act. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think that's like, I've noticed it doesn't happen every time I do a movie, but oftentimes, like, I always have, like, I pride myself on, like, writing really interesting, complex, particularly female characters. And I've noticed going back and looking at projects that oftentimes the first thing I will film is usually just with that actor alone. And it's not a complex situation, but it's a hard sequence. So like when I did Casey Calvert for Birth, the first thing we filmed was her throwing up in the toilet scenes, which are like, it's very simple, but it's really hard. And it's very vulnerable. And it's not like, once you do that, like you establish this baseline, right? And for us, it was like, okay, you are going to go have this freak out in this bathroom. Once we navigated just what that would look like, you know, it kind of allowed us to then like build upon that. And I think that's kind of an interesting way. I don't know, for me, whether it's intentional or not, it's a pattern I've noticed in my work to like then be able to like work and get really great performances afterwards.
I feel like it does kind of set a baseline, you know, because then it's, okay, well, in this moment, I acted this way, so the moment before this, that it would make sense to do this, and the moment before, after that, it makes sense to do this. And for an actor, it does help.
And we did shoot the film out of sequence, like, you know, over the multi-day shoot, you know, we did not shoot it in chronological order. So as somebody who is detail oriented and who likes, you know, that kind of structure, did you find that was helpful? Like you were putting a puzzle piece together over the course of the run, or did you find it challenging because it was, you know, you were kind of jumping back and forth in time with what we were filming?
I think it can be either or, right? Depends on how, like what sequence you put it in. But I feel like doing that, what you're saying, like solo, like putting a baseline, it really helps. Especially because, you know, while we were setting up the cameras and all that stuff, I was able to kind of just sit and like look in the mirror. And I think that really helped me like walk into this
this fragile
moment.
mental state.
Yeah. So I'm like staring at, I don't know if anyone saw that. I'm just like, you know, and it took a minute before the camera went on and we started action and all that. I think that kind of really helped. Be like, I put this level of, you know, emotion and this level of depth into this character. I need to bring that for the entire time.
Yeah. And did you. But what was your biggest like takeaway from like the overall experience? What would be like some of your highlight moments, and like what moments stand out to you that you'd say like to your fans, like you should check this out?
I really liked, my favorite scene was when we're in the living room, we're playing video games, me and my friend, and Greg comes in. And then I just love the way that you guys were using the camera to kind of establish power. I thought that was so cool.
Okay. Come on, just give him your number.
He doesn't need my number.
Well, it's not bad to have a little fun, you know. You don't even have a boyfriend.
I know a lot of people do that with like lighting and stuff, but I thought the camera angle was just like, I loved it.
Me obsessing over like where Seth Gamble's dick was positioned in comparison to your heads. Yeah.
I think that stuff is so cool. I loved seeing you guys work through that. And then having, I forgot his character name.
Oh, so Nick Strokes, right?
Yeah.
Ethan, yes. Yeah.
Him coming in, I think that's the most serious I've ever seen him. I was very impressed by his acting. I think, I don't know, he just fit, and the way just all of us in that little, I just love that moment in the movie.
Yeah, that was a good, it was my first time working with Nick too. You know, and he's obviously someone who, you know, has shot a good number of scenes in the last couple of years. And he's someone who can easily get typecast, right? As like, oh, he's like the stepson. And I looked at him and I'm like, well, I think again, what makes Pure Taboo so effective is when you can cast people who would believably be the characters that you're trying to create, not just in terms of their ability to like lean in on those personalities, but also like just even like the way that everybody should look, quote unquote, as normal as if you were to encounter them in real life, right? So like, you know, people that don't look like, oh, that's a, you know, super polished point, like Ethan, the character would not be a male model. He would be a guy who looks like a handsome guy, but like a regular guy. And you know, to me, Nick is somebody who looks like he could be your slightly odd, introverted, you know, brother.
Chloe, it's your turn.
Chloe, could I talk to you for a second?
Ethan.
And he was so gracious in being like, yeah, exactly. Like when we were talking about his character, he's like, man, I know guys like that. Like I was kind of like that growing up, right? So he was also, I think, super like enthusiastic about leaning into the realism and leaning into like, yeah, I'm gonna be this guy that's so many young guys today. And I thought he did a great job. When you take people seriously, they'll take themselves seriously. And I kind of like recognize that about everybody in the cast, you know, like everybody wanted.
I think we had a really good cast for this movie.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Yeah. I was saying to you before we started, just the fact that it's you, Liz Jordan, and Haley Rose as like the three female, you know, characters. Like I did a blog with, I kind of write a weekly blog to our subscribers, and I was showing them some behind the scenes and talking about the movie, and just people going bananas over like, oh my gosh, those three, you know. Had a few people that are like, orgy? Like, no, sorry, sort of, not quite.
Yeah.
We have some multi-person things going on. A lot of sex happening throughout the movie.
Oh, hey, Lana. Do you think your stepdad would let us invite some boys over?
No.
What? We're totally old enough now, and like, I'm just trying to have fun.
I just want to hang out with you
in
guys.
trouble.
That too. Yeah.
Or whatever.
Here's something I wanted to get your opinion on. Like, you've obviously shot a lot of, you know, different content. You know, there's this sort of traditional rule with adult movies that, you know, you've got X number of scenes that lead into X number of sex scenes.
Yeah.
And to me, the thing that kind of drives me crazy as a filmmaker is like, I like weaving sex throughout the story. But like, would they be having sex for 45 minutes? You know, in that quickie in the kitchen? No, probably not. It's probably like 5 minutes, you know? So I like to play around with expectations about like scene lengths and be able to have even like more sex scenes throughout the story, even if they're not all like 40-minute scenes. But that is definitely going against like kind of the traditional way that a lot of stuff is shot.
It's so interesting the way you like layer it though. I feel like that it isn't just, oh, I only get 10 minutes instead of 45. It's, okay, we get 10 minutes of this and the lead up, and we get this really emotional scene afterwards, but also before that one, there's this other scene with this girl. Like, I think that is more exciting to the brain almost. It would be to me.
Well, and it ends up being like one, you know, like it ends up cutting to a movie that, you know, is a 1.5 to 2 hour movie, which is the same as if you were going to watch any mainstream movie. It just has sex in it. It's not like a 5-hour movie because you have all these simple like sex scenes. And I like to be able to put things out like not in parts, but to put them out as full releases, right? So you kind of need to cut down on the duration of the sex scenes in order to like make it flow with the story better. You got to have some fun. You got to have one interesting sex scene.
Yeah.
What was it like working with, I know you've worked with Seth, you know, multiple times in the past. What was it like working in this particular dynamic with Seth? And tell me about the decision to go for the not real pop shot, but the multi-cum in the story.
should I start with that or kind of the dynamic?
Let's start with the dynamic and lead up to the the come.
The dynamic. So it's been a while since I worked with Seth. I remember I worked with him like super early on. You know, when I wasn't a confident performer, even with like dialogue and stuff. So it was definitely a little bit different to be able to like fully match his energy, I guess, because he's always been really strong performer since I've known him. And like me kind of like mad at him, like being mad is hard for me. Like that's harder for me than the first scene that we did. like yelling and like just getting like bringing like trying to be actually frustrated with him that was hard, but he just gives it back. And so it's easy to stay in the rhythm. And I thought that was really nice. I think it kind of matched. It's disrespectful to me and to my mom.
I think you're jealous. You didn't like when I was giving Christy all the attention, did you? I can't help it if your friend Chloe disappeared and your other friend wanted to get fucked.
You should help it. It's my birthday.
You know you look just like your mother when she was younger.
And then into the sex, you know, it was pretty much the end of the day. I think it was the last. Yeah.
It was the last scene that we filmed for the whole movie.
Yeah. So we were ready.
Yeah.
You know? And then we were gonna do a fake cream pie, and you know, that's frustrating for a guy, and I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
And so we kind of talked about it, and he was like, you know, I think he was the one that suggested, oh, we do too.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care. Like, let's do it. You know, it's fun. It's for a horny stepdad or whatever. It's normal.
I was like, listen, it's great for the story. If you guys are down to do it, let's do it. Yeah.
I thought it was nice.
Yeah.
I think twists like that are interesting.
Yeah. Well, it adds like a little level of taboo to an already taboo situation, right?
Yeah.
The film itself, you know, I think one of my favorite BTS moments. Well, I have two. The first one was the fact that we had this birthday cake.
Yeah.
That we only brought it out on the last day, so it's not like it wasn't sitting out for 3 days. But we had this birthday cake that was used all throughout the final day, and at the end of the day, because it was just you and Haley left, you guys got to sample the cake. And I have this great photo of the two of you just digging into the cake at the end of it, which is a kind of, to me, like it
was tempting us.
Yeah,
like the whole
it was
day.
the whole day.
It smelled so good.
It did. And you know what? It tasted pretty good too. Yeah. Considering the like chaos that ensued around it, it itself tasted pretty good. But my other favorite was the last moment of the movie. And obviously we don't want to necessarily reveal any spoilers, but your hair, you've got the most amazing long hair.
Yeah.
And we needed you to look very frazzled. So we kind of almost turned you into like Cousin It. Like your hair was crazy.
What is it, babe?
So tell us about like what your thoughts were going through for the end of that scene, because it probably has my favorite shot in the movie is what will be the final shot of the movie. But yeah, your transformation into Cousin It.
The mindset or the transformation?
Well, let's talk about both.
Okay. The hair part, it was very much, it didn't take very long. My hair tangles very easily. So we kind of just teased it up, you know, and put it in front of my face, which reminded me of when I was like super emo. Thought that was great. And then at the end, to kind of get in that headspace, I'm trying to be careful of not spoiling anything too. I'm like, it was very similar to like the first scene that we did, but like more, like farther, but like not crazier, if that makes sense.
Just a different variation of crazy.
Yeah. Very much like in myself, like trying to process, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of a chilling final moment. We won't say exactly what happened. But the other standout moment for me was a moment in the movie where you discover kind of the extent of what's happening around you. And I had originally written into the script that you were going to let out a blood-curdling scream.
Yeah.
And this was a great example, I think, of what is really important to have as a dynamic on set with your actors, which is when, as a director, you realize, okay, we're not going to do that. we're gonna do something else. So we talked about nerves a little bit earlier, right? That you still feel nervous. Did I give you a heart attack when I told you needed to scream in front of everybody?
Oh yeah, like my stomach dropped. I was like, I was like, oh my gosh. You know, I read the script, but it's still like you said it, and then my body was like, I don't know about this. So I was like everyone's on set, you know, everyone's looking. I'm like, okay, I got to do this. Like, this would be so stupid to like chicken out about. I'm like, okay, I got to do it. I'm like, you see me like pacing. I'm like trying to work up the nerve. I'm like, I like really wanted to do it, but I was just like, it made me so nervous.
You came up to me. So again, you know, we're getting everything ready. You're right. We had all bodies on set.
Yeah.
We had Allison going around shooting all the social content. I think she may have even got this moment on tape where I'm like, all right, now everybody, Hazel's going to scream. And I looked over at you and you looked like just white. And you came up to me like seconds later, you're like, I think I'm going to be sick. I'm like, we are not going to make you scream.
Yeah.
In fact, we were going to lean into what Lana would do, which she wouldn't scream. She would go completely shell-shocked internally. And then the shot that we ended up getting of you, right? Mm-hmm. Which was that sort of really kind of close up with a wide angle lens, which is one of my favorite shots. It turned out so well because it really captured like the trauma.
The real panic.
Exactly. I was like, okay, she's not going to scream. Bring the cameras in, get the real panic. Yeah. And it turned out, I think it actually made the scene much more believable.
Yeah.
Which is the beauty of like just leaning into how one's actually feeling, right?
I try to do that. Like even when I'm like panicking, I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be panicking anyway, so let's put that in there.
Yeah.
And I like tried at the end. I was like, it's something, you know? And then you guys ended up loving it, and I was like, okay.
Yes, you did it. No, but
I can breathe.
That was also one of my favorite moments because I think it was like it made the final movie better because of the real emotion. Mm-hmm. And everybody, when you watch that moment in the film, know that Hazel Moore was having a internal meltdown. All right. So, you know, obviously it's your character's birthday in the movie. What's the naughtiest gift you've ever received or given on your actual birthday? And if there's nothing naughty, just give me something interesting.
On my birthday specifically, the guy I was dating at the time gave me a thong. I think that's
just an isolated thong?
Yeah, just a thong. It was very nice. I loved it. It was thoughtful.
Very good. Very good.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Do you still have said thong?
I do, actually.
Oh, there you go.
I do. It's a very nice thong.
Very nice. So, you know, this movie, obviously, it does explore a lot of taboo themes, being a pure taboo movie, especially the kind of family role play theme. This is something that, you know, with like stepmoms and stepdaughters and all the family members, it's something that we in adult, like, do a lot of those scenes. Is that something like how you know, what's your sort of hot take on that niche? Is that something that you like enjoy playing those fantasies? Is something more like, okay, you know, like that's just part of the job? Like what's your hot take on the family role play kind of fetish?
I don't have a problem with it. Like I do that a lot. I still do like a lot of like stepdaughter stuff. It's not like something I like enjoy. I don't think in my personal life off camera I do a lot of like role play.
You're not like a dommy mommy off camera.
Not for the most part, not really. So I feel like I just don't have like a strong opinion either way on it.
Yeah. Just another role to play.
Yeah. That's what it is for me, I think.
I do find I I kind of have a similar approach because it's not necessarily a kink that I have. It isn't a kink that I have in my personal life, but I find it like a fascinating subject to kind of explore because it's so just the relationship dynamics within a family are so complicated in general in life, right? That, not looking at it as the, the kind of like faux cest angle, but just looking at it as like, there's some like interesting storylines within the family unit. I do find that is always something that's interesting to write about. So that's kind of how I broach it.
I think the more you flush it out, the more taboo it gets.
Oh, definitely. Well, and that was what motivated like Pure Taboo originally. Obviously, there's tons of taboo like series out there and content lines, and there always have been. What for me when I developed Pure Taboo, the kind of motivation was that you saw all of this content and it was all treated like a joke. Like, oh, haha, like stepdad caught me masturbating. Like, this is funny. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's not funny. It's pretty complicated. And, by turning the tone on its head and like looking at it as being serious and kind of complicated and controversial, to me, that was what was interesting about it. And I would rather explore those stories and lay them kind of raw for just as complicated as they are than treat them like a joke. To me, treating them like a joke is actually more harmful than actually making people think about what they're watching. Yeah. People say porn with a side of guilt is what they call Pure Taboo.
Well, I think that's kind of like for the people who actually are really into that, like it's not a joke to them. You know what I mean? Like they have to think about those things.
Oh yeah, they're deeply rooted fantasies for sure.
That's what makes it so like,
Yeah. Well, and I love the thing too about that universe is that I love being able to put things like intentionally moments into those stories that are very simple to the point where they're not usually included in stories, but the fact that you include them makes the viewer that much more uncomfortable. So for example, we were talking about, I think on set about like how I always had guys like feverishly masturbating in episodes, right? Because you never see that in a straight porno.
Yeah.
Or people like you have a scene and someone just goes to the bathroom and you just watch them like go into the bathroom like normal. Yeah. Like just go in and like use the toilet and wash their hands and leave. And as the viewer, you're like, why am I watching this? Like this is a private moment that I feel weird watching this person do this. And I like doing that because it starts to like sow those seeds of you're watching it and you're kind of into it, but you're also feeling kind of guilty and kind of conflicted. And I like that. Like I like taking people on emotional journeys like that. Yeah. So speaking of emotional journeys, I think you've done a little bit of mainstream film production, right? So how would you compare, shooting a movie like ours to when you've been on mainstream sets in the past?
I think it's very similar. And I feel like I'm more well-equipped now than, when I did those other movies. So I was able to bring more realism. But I think that's also why, like, doing those other movies is why I can do that now. Because I took an acting class, Like, it was, like, 1 or 2, but she really solidified, my coach, that I had to kind of like sit in my emotions, good or bad or whatever, when it's really happening and kind of bookmark it, like how do I really feel? And then I can go back to that for when I'm on set.
And so that would be kind of like when you're in the bathroom, sobbing and washing your vagina out. You did an amazing episode for us called Soaking. It's probably one of the top 10 Pure Taboo episodes of the last 4 or 5 years in terms of just like overall popularity.
Yeah, it's a loophole, Clara.
Okay, Elijah.
Dear God, our Lord, our Heavenly Father, bless us and these thy gifts, we beseech thee.
Is there Something you wanted to talk to me about?
Yeah. You can't tell mom or dad or anyone.
Is everything okay? I don't think mom and dad would approve.
Me and Elijah, we've been committed for a long time. We plan to marry after college. We've been really struggling, staying virtuous.
Okay, what do you want me to do about it?
I think we have a solution.
It's called soaking. It's where
It's when you do it without moving.
I'm sorry, what?
we need you to help us move.
Peace be with you.
And that was, you know, obviously it was about a kind of, it has to do with within Mormonism, especially like kind of Mormon youth culture, those who cannot have sex before marriage have found this kind of workaround that's called soaking, where you don't actually have intercourse. It's just sort of there. You're just sort of inserting and staying, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll ask a friend to like move the bed or something to. So prior to filming Soaking, did you know about soaking? And then what was that experience like?
I kind of knew what it was. Obviously, I looked into it before I went on set. So by the time I got to set, it was very much ingrained in my mind. I thought it was a very odd movie, but I think that's kind of the point. Doing it was very strange too, because even during the sex, I'm very much just like, oh, I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that popular until very recently.
Yes, yeah.
I'm glad people liked it.
Yeah.
It's just very much like, okay, I have to put myself into the shoes of someone who really wants this, but feels really guilty and weird about it.
Yeah.
You know? So the whole time, from what I remember, I'm just in that mindset, and it's just very much like, oh, you know, you're holding hands and like, you know, just weird little things that, you know, most people don't do.
Yeah, I mean, I stumbled upon soaking. I find Mormonism quite fascinating, and I stumbled upon the soaking like trend. I think it was on TikTok, like a lot of videos that were being made about. There's a couple of things within, you know, kind of more Mormon dating culture like soaking. There's another one, I believe it's called spotlighting, which I would love to do an episode on. So it's sort of, from what I understand, it's a way for people to sort of publicly shame those who might be going outside of, you know, what is deemed acceptable before marriage. So, for example, if two, you know, like a Mormon couple is out parked in a car making out, people will know, okay, that lover's lane or whatever area that has people that go and park there. On a Friday night, we're going to get a bunch of our friends and we're going to go down to lover's lane with, you know, flashlights. And we're going to basically like spotlight anybody who is sinning in these cars as a way to, I guess, essentially like shame them back into. Yeah. To me, I'm like, that's a Pure Taboo episode right there. I mean, of course, it would end in some sort of gangbang somehow. but that, again, these sort of really interesting, like, again, sex and sexuality is super interesting subject matter, right? So, like, even looking at different, you know, different communities' relationships with sex, like those aspects of like those Mormon workarounds are really interesting ways of navigating repressed sexuality, right? Like, so I know, I find that super interesting.
I think anytime you repress people, like even if you opt in, like you still always kind of naturally find workarounds.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
I love watching the interviews that they do on like the campus.
Oh yes,
like,
yeah. The
where it's like, oh,
yeah.
I don't drink coffee, but I drink Monster, and it's like,
Mountain Dew and everything.
That, you know.
Yeah, I actually also oftentimes get sucked down those
Yeah,
rabbit holes.
it's easy.
And the whole like there's like a housewives of more there's like a Mormon housewives reality show
I'm
that
not really
yeah.
a reality show type of
I try not to. I try not to because they make me anxious. Like if I watch, if I watch one like Love is Blind or something, they're addictive, but yeah, it makes me feel like I'm just screaming at the TV the whole time. But the Mormon wives it's pretty fascinating because they're all super horny, like just very horny.
Really?
Oh yeah, like yeah, absolutely. All right, so yeah, so soaking was one of the most popular ones. Let's talk a little bit about you. We've talked a lot about you as your different characters. But you know, your career path is quite unique, I would say, compared to most. So oftentimes performers are going to start with sort of a, you know, trajectory journey into porn, right? Like start in camming, or you start doing dancing, or, you know, OnlyFans creator stuff. You went just straight into porn.
Yeah.
Tell us your journey.
I just was handed an opportunity and I took it. I don't know. I'm one of those people that like never thought like sex and stuff like that was like taboo or weird or like, you know, I'm more nervous talking to people than like being naked in front of them, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, but I find that to be very fascinating. Do you know why that is?
No idea.
Because to me, I would feel like
it just like makes sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah. No, but it is interesting. Like what, when did you like, you know, did you do any kind of like dance or performance or like anything physically expressive growing up that would give you that sense of confidence?
It might have been because I was a swimmer.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. But anyway, you're saying that you always felt confident, like expressing yourself sexually more so than like having conversations or whatever.
It's not so much just about sex though. Like, I just think, things just aren't like taboo to me. I just don't think that way. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I usually end up in that kind of category on whatever topic.
Yeah. You're more of a free spirit in that sense. Yeah.
I think that's one way to put it. Yeah.
And so you're handed this opportunity. Hey, do you want to shoot a porn scene? Had you ever thought about shooting a porn scene before that?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
You're like, yes. Yeah.
No, you can imagine how much I was like the first time I did it, you know?
What was your first experience like? Like, what was your first shoot like?
God, I was so nervous. My first like 2 or 3 scenes, super popular, I think, on like Reddit or something, which kind of attributed to a lot of the, you know, lasting success, you know, where I haven't had to leave the industry or anything. I've been able to stay here for a while. It's because like people just really love those first scenes, and I don't think I've exactly pinpointed what it was, but I think it was just they just liked how real it was. I feel like I didn't know I was supposed to like fake things. You know what I mean? And I still don't. I just bring me, and I think people really like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say in a like very platonic sense, the first time we like within 5 minutes of us talking, shooting, the party's over, I'm like, okay, we're gonna get along. Like, there's something about you that is extremely like genuine and authentic and like yourself, and you don't mask it. Like, it comes out. And yeah, I think people are drawn to that because there are a lot of people that put up a front. So seeing someone who is like, you can, especially with a lot of people that are watching adult content, they want to lose themselves in the believability that it's real, right? So by being very authentic, it probably connected with a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that it's like a lot of people are inauthentic. I think it's they have a slightly different version of themselves, whereas like Hazel is me, you know? I don't really distinguish between like the real me and Hazel. Yeah. You know?
Well, that's as long as you can keep kind of good boundaries with, you know, not losing yourself completely. I think it is important to remember that there's a person behind the persona. And you do see a lot of people that end up struggling with that. And it's tough, right? Like, because It's easy to see how you get lost for that. Now, you, unlike most performers, you're not super active on social media.
Yeah, I used to be like really active. I've gotten a little lax.
Yeah.
More than a little.
Yeah.
I need to get back to it. Yeah.
So it's more just it's like it's a guilty. It's like a point of guilt right now more than like a conscious choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel you on that too.
Because I know my fans want to hear from me. I know, they want updates. They want to see what projects I'm working on and all this stuff. So I need to get back to it.
Yeah. So speaking of social media, our team did a little digging, and apparently you once tweeted that you love sending nudes.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a fact?
Yeah.
What makes for a good nude, Hazel Moore?
I think cool lighting.
Okay.
I love lighting. I love playing with lighting. I think like an early morning nude is like with the sun. I don't know. I love it. I think it's nice. I think that's the main thing.
Are you like a show in the face type of nude, or a no face showing the goods type of nude sender?
It depends.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of the time I don't, but I also love sending like detail shots.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not just like, here's my body, it's like here's one thing, and I'll send another one.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's fun.
It allows
Little
for
tease.
a thread. It allows for a thread to get. So what's the best and worst response that you think you've ever received from sending a nude?
The best is getting a picture back.
Okay.
I think that's
the
end goal for me.
Yeah.
I don't know about other people. Maybe unless they're at work and it's like, oh, whatever, I'll talk to you later. Like, you can tell they're worked up. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
The worst is like being left on red. That is like devastating. That is, oh my gosh, is there something in this picture? What's going on? Did you just get hit by a car? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I think that's, it makes your like chest hurt.
Yeah, because like the anxiety factor, right? Like do you get stage fright before you send a nude?
Not really.
No, but if you don't get it, if it doesn't get read within a certain amount of time, then the panic.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not much. I am not, thankfully, a nude sender. But
thankfully.
Thankfully, as in like, I don't know. To me, I see too many. Like, there's just that nude. Like your nudes are probably more. I don't want my nudes getting out there. You know what I mean? Nobody needs to see my nudes. But I would feel anxious if it was, because it's like you're sending out a lifeline and you want to get a response. Yeah. And the worst thing you can get is like, my nude is just sitting in there. Mm-hmm. It's just you like could sitting in there.
Oh, they read it.
Yeah, they read it and they didn't
on
respond.
Instagram or something, and you're like, dang.
Yeah, there you go.
You're like not even doing anything.
No, there you go. And then you start to get self-conscious. You're like, oh man, look at that nude. That nude's out there. I can't delete it. I can't take it back.
That's why I like the good lighting, because then it's like, well, it is hot. I don't zooming in, like I don't see anything. No. So
worst case, you could just repurpose it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Me, it's not going to be repurposed. It's going to be deleted and archived. All right. This has been a great conversation. We're going to end with some rapid fire questions. Okay, so these are just to round us out. When you are in the middle of a gangbang, you've done a gangbang? Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, so when you're in the middle of a gangbang, what's going through your mind?
Nothing. Nothing. That's like the best. When I don't think anymore.
Amazing.
Great. It's going to be a good scene.
What is your go-to dirty talk line?
Nothing. I'm
Sending
like,
nudes.
I have to like actively think about dirty talking.
Yeah.
I think my fans definitely have picked up that that's not my forte naturally.
Yeah.
If I get like a rundown beforehand, like a premise, detail, certain lines, like I can be pretty good at it. Some days it just comes out. Most of the time not.
Yeah. I find whenever I see somebody who is an expert dirty talker, like to me I have great respect.
Yeah.
Because the second I would open my mouth to try saying something, it would be like, whoa, it would just sound ridiculous.
Oh, that happens to me a lot. And I'm like, ooh.
You're like, ooh, that's not sexy.
Yeah. So I feel like I default to just like please. I like that. Mm-hmm. Or I'm not like a daddy kind of gal. I say sir a lot.
Yeah.
Or like, use me, play with me, like those kinds of things. I feel like those come out the most. I don't know if I actually consider that dirty talking though, because
I would consider that dirty talking. That's like more than I would feel comfortable saying.
Okay.
Well, and like for me, it's I guess it's one thing if somebody starts it and you're responding.
Yeah.
Because then
That's
you can.
much easier.
It's much easier if you're just dropping that cold first dirty talk line and it falls flat.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm with you on the just nothing. Do you have any sex hot takes? I understand that hot takes is means that it's sort of like a tip. But what would be your best sex tip?
Missionary is not overrated. So I feel like I was just talking on set with someone about this too, where we were talking about our favorite positions and we both had said, doggy used to be our favorite, but now it's missionary again. It's just like you can't beat a classic, I think.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But it's also too like it's so often not in a scene, right? Like it's all like you're gonna have sex up against this bench or against this tree or in this like washing machine, and it's like I just want to lie down. Yeah. So it's probably in reaction to that as well. You used to. Okay, I don't even understand this question, but I hope you do. You used to stream Halo.
Yeah.
How hung do you think Master Chief is?
I think he's well endowed. I think so.
Who is Master Chief?
That is Halo.
Okay. Is that a video game?
Yeah.
Wow, I feel just old.
Well, it's also a show now.
Okay. Good.
People have some not so happy thoughts on the show. I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
Ish.
Are you a big gamer?
Nah, I just like Halo.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the one game downloaded on my computer is like Halo and Minecraft.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I know my daughter likes Minecraft, but yeah, to me, I look at it, I'm like, that just doesn't look like good graphics.
Yeah, but it just works. It's it's its own thing.
It's its own thing. On a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult is gaping, Hazel Moore?
For me, it's not hard.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like it sounds weird, but I feel like I have more control over my butt than a lot of people. I don't know how to explain that.
But I would like you to explain that. So, like, is it like a telepathic? Like,
I think it's like, can you wiggle your ears or not?
Okay.
I think it's kind of like that.
Okay. Can you wiggle your ears?
Yes.
I can also, but I don't know about the other thing.
But I can like manually relax it, and if it's already stretched, then it'll just say that size, if that makes sense.
I will remember that for future scenario needs where I need a very reliable gaper.
Yeah.
Good. So my last question for you. How many times do you think you have had sex in the year 2024, so in the last year?
Oh man, I don't know. I stopped keeping track like my first year of porn, so I have no idea.
For a detail-oriented person.
I know. Listen, that's a lot to like write down in a chart.
What was your, one of the things about that I find fascinating about almost every performer I speak to is that going into the industry, like in that first year, or sometimes like still to this day, everybody has a unique way of documenting their work. So, I know like my wife used to keep a organizer, like a calendar, and she would write down, production company day, who the scene was with, like her rate, whatever details about it, so that she could like go back and look over time. And she did that for I don't know how long. And I know people that have done full Excel spreadsheets that they can data mine, and shout out Allison, that they can data mine. So did you ever have, like in your early days, did you ever have something like that?
I feel like I just kind of like wrote down names of like people I'd been with.
Yeah.
That was the extent. I've seen people with like notebooks where, some male performers, they just take a picture every scene they do.
Yeah.
I think that is actually really nice.
Yeah, that's like Isaiah does that. Yeah, it's like a good way of just keeping track.
Yeah. That's who I was thinking of. I I just worked with him again recently.
Nice.
But yeah.
Who are some of your favorite people to work with?
Oh God, I hate that question because it's like I have so many people, and then it's like you can't remember everyone, and then
Okay, well we're gonna give you an out.
Okay.
Who's the first person that came to mind? Because it doesn't mean it's everybody you love, but who was the first person? Well,
Isaiah, because I just worked with him, and every time we work together, it's great.
Yeah, well, Isaiah is an Adult Time brand ambassador, so I accept that answer.
Okay.
We also love Isaiah. He's great to work with, and you've been fantastic to work with on all the projects you do for Adult Time. We love you, Hazel. You were so good in The Party's Over.
Thank you.
Everybody needs to go watch this movie. It's definitely like one of our top movies for the year, and not just because you were freaking out and washing your vagina out in a bathroom, but it was an incredible performance. Please let everybody know where they can find you. Plug all your links.
I think Instagram is the easiest, so it's just not Hazel Moore. Trying to trick Instagram because I've been deleted, but
excellent.
Everything will be tagged on there, so you can find everything.
Awesome. Perfect. So please also make sure to check out Hazel's incredible catalog of scenes at Adult Time. You can always find us on socials at Adult Time HQ. We're on TikTok at Corn Up Close. You can find me on pretty much all my socials at the Bree Mills.